Guys, thanks for coming. My name is Danny Nadeau. I represent House District 34A, Rogers, Dayton, and Champlin, and I'm very excited to be here today to announce the inaugural Suburban Solutions Caucus that we've been working on for a while. You know, the members that are here today, we're all first-term members, and we've served in the legislature for about 6 months. We don't have all the answers, but we do have some observations. Each one of us come from a very unique place in Minnesota, in the suburbs. We all have had significant outreach into our communities, both with voters, with businesses, with special interest groups, and we've all carved out this space that we think is incredibly unique. You know, the suburbs, about 50% of the population of Minnesota lives in 5 counties, and about a little over half of that lives in the suburbs. And in this last cycle, during this campaign, and even during the session, we heard time and time again from our constituents, from our business owners, that, you know, we want you to work together to find solutions, working together with Democrats, working together with people that maybe don't align with us on every issue, but finding that space where we can move a good, positive agenda forward. We heard it, we continue to hear it, and during this first session, the one thing that really sticks out, at least to me, and one of the things that we've talked about, is that we were up against a political agenda that wasn't really willing to take input. We're really good at reaching across the aisle. We're really good at reaching out to people that maybe don't agree with us all the time and trying to find that common ground. But there has to be some reciprocity. And that's why we're standing together today. We're standing, and this is the start. This is just the beginning of what we think is gonna be a solid move to move good policies, common sense, reasonable policies forward. In this last election, or in this last session, you know, there was a lot of voices that were silenced. There was an agenda that was very metrocentric. It was focused, and we're not. I don't wanna disparage that agenda at all. But it really left out the voices of a lot of Minnesotans, and it left out almost all the voices of the people who live in the suburbs. So that's really, you know, going to be, you know, our focus. Our goal truly is to find those reasonable, common sense solutions and work with anybody that's willing to do it. And as I mentioned, this is a start. This is just the beginning. We will have open arms for anybody that wants to join this caucus, and we hope that, you know, there's a lot of people that do. You know, this group of people right here, you know, we all came in together. We pushed each other hard during the session. We thought about things a little bit differently. We challenged each other's belief systems, and we came up with what we thought were some pretty interesting alternatives to what was going on. And I hope that the more people we add, the more people that join this caucus, it's gonna actually challenge us more. There's going to be some criticism. There is a lot of negativity out there right now, and we get it. But, you know, our focus once again is going to be on the positive side of how do we move good agendas forward. And with that, I want to thank you. I'm going to introduce Andrew Myers.
Thank you, Representative Nadeau. Andrew Myers, I represent District 45A. Just want to thank everybody for being here. It's actually an honor and a privilege to have worked with these gentlemen up here. You know, what I've learned from them is that they have the same passion, and that passion is for public service, and it's for people. You know, and I think everybody saw that during our first legislative session. You know, we have some people that have been giving back to their communities for 10 years. We have other members who have been giving back for almost 30 years. But during our time in the legislature, we noticed that the voice of the suburbs was getting less and less, and that those urban voices were getting louder and louder. And we saw that there was a definite need to, you know, bring people together. And I saw it in committee, I saw it on the floor, and I saw it pretty much every week from emails that I would receive from just everyday people asking, you know, can we get some reasonable solutions for our families? So this caucus is about listening, you know, it's about sharing ideas, it's about working together. It needs to be more about the boots on the ground, working with your neighbors so that we can come up with those policies and not some of the activists that we're seeing in St. Paul. We want to strengthen the voice of the suburbs, suburban families, suburban businesses. To do that, we are willing to invest the time and effort. We're gonna be doing a lot of town halls, speaking to people from all around the suburbs. But we need to elect more leaders that are gonna have that engagement, they're willing to listen, so that we can produce policies for people. For me, it's policies for people. So I just wanna thank everybody for coming. If you have any questions, we're happy to answer them.
Just to start off, I think there's a tendency sometimes to loop in suburban voices with those in the metro or those in urban areas. Can you guys speak a little to the differences and the interest between those two classifications?
I don't know if I totally understand the question, but the suburbs and the urban core are very different. The value systems are different. What people find important is different. And so, not that one is right and one is wrong. We just feel that the suburban voice, that value system that comes from the suburbs, has kind of been lost, and we want to make sure that comes back.
That answers the question.
Thank you.
To bounce off that, I think with across the aisle, we see caucuses like the Posse Caucus, the Queer Caucus. They all have pieces of legislation that they introduce, that they back, and that they see through as they go to the floor. Do you guys have plans for certain bills, certain initiatives you guys plan to push for next year?
Take our education alternative bill that we brought forward. Yes, there are gonna be pieces of legislation that we're gonna work on, hopefully together, and hopefully broaden that support to actually, it's ultimately about getting things done. We know that we can't do that on our own, and we don't plan to. But we do plan on working on those policies, be it, water quality, environment, government accountability, whatever it is, where we find those are the values of our districts, and we're gonna bring those forward and hopefully work on those together.
Yeah, I got one. Just going by, you guys, this is all your first time, all right? What you guys got into, what you guys thought you were getting into, or what actually happened this last year. Do you guys feel that you guys were overlooked?
Absolutely. One might argue that if we felt like we had a voice and a place at the table, maybe we wouldn't feel so strongly that we need to band together in order to try to have a louder voice. So, yes, it was there was an agenda that was pushed, and it really didn't matter if our voices weren't heard. That's it. And a lot of voices weren't heard. And that's what you get. I say this all the time, is that there's no party, there's no organization, there's no single person that has all the right answers. And in the last legislative session, there was one focus, there was one agenda, and it moved through. So no, we definitely feel like we want to increase our voice, provide better representation for the areas that we serve.
If I can jump in on that, I would just say that it's not about us, it's about our constituents and the people that we have the pleasure to serve. We started this session with close to a $20 billion surplus. We raised taxes by $10 billion. That's not what I heard when I was knocking on doors. So Representative Myers talked about these listening sessions in town halls. That's what's going to be happening, and that's how we're going to be crafting policies to meet the needs of our communities that we serve. It's not about Ben Bakeberg. It's about the residents of 54B that I have the privilege and the opportunity to serve. That's the mentality that we're going to take. And then as this grows, as our caucus grows and becomes more diverse within the GOP, we're going to continue to have diverse perspectives to be able to serve Minnesotans better. Because as these guys talked about, a large portion of Minnesota was left out with this legislative session.
To bounce off that, we've had, what, 2 months of interim now, you know, was the creation of this caucus inspired by conversations you guys have had with constituents in the last 2 months, or is this just something that you guys were noticing during the session as well?
Yeah, so being, new to politics, but not new to public service, I saw early on that there was definitely a need for something like this. Not only from what I heard, door knocking 15,000 doors, talking to friends, neighbors, my own family, but seeing what has happened down here, as I said, in those committees, on the session floor, when you do try to reach across the aisle, we know that the feedback is the voice is getting muted in the suburbs. They're pushing down urban. And so if we can step up and represent those voices, that's what we want to do.
Do you guys see anybody else, anybody talking to you guys about joining your caucus? I mean, there's 6 of you here right now.
Yeah, so for us, it was something as new legislators, we had that common bond. And we saw that there was a need for this. And so this is a starting point. You have to start somewhere. And I think because of the public service background we have, that relationship that we built, we're hopeful that after this starting point that there will be some growth.
I think we're good. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.